Hello and welcome to the We Need Water podcast. My name is Michael Brent and I'm the host, the Water Resources Manager for Cascade Water Alliance in King County, Washington. Cascade is a municipal water provider supplying water to 380,000 residents. Today, I'm very excited to have a special guest with us, Dr. Jack Sim, the founder of the World Toilet Organization. Dr. Sim is a successful businessman from Singapore who created the World Toilet Organization. And we'll just get right into us. How are you today, Dr. Sim?
Very good. It's a morning in Singapore.
Very nice. Can you tell us a bit about the World Toilet Organization?
Yes. So in about 23 years ago, I founded the World Toilet Organization because people find it very uncomfortable to talk about toilets, and they almost felt that this is rude or embarrassing. That they actually needs to go to the toilet every day, 6 to 8 times a day, and spend about 3 years of their entire lifetime inside the toilet. So they are in a state of denial that they have no relationship with the toilet, therefore they cannot say it. And the reason is that because they felt that they're very good looking and wholesome and well behaved, it's impossible to admit that they actually farted or have produced a pungent smell while going to the toilet. I think these are natural fermentation process of food, and in fact, if shit is smelling good, it's very dangerous because children will touch it
Yes.
and then they will put it in their mouth, and it's very good that that shit has a pungent smell so that it keep us away and save us from danger. However, if we don't talk about going to the toilet, then the problem accumulates. So there, at that time in 2001, 40% of the world population did not have a toilet, just because they don't talk about it. They call it a water agenda. So I felt that no, sanitation is such a big issue that the 2.5 billion people don't have toilets. So I created the second WTO, World Toilet Organization.
Um, do you know how the other WTO reacted? What did they think about that?
In the beginning, I was hoping that they would sue me so that I would be able to put sanitation and toilet in the center stage of media. But they didn't sue me. They probably ignore me as somebody trying to, be popular, or making a joke out of it. But after the media realized that it is such a serious issue, their reporting goes into billions of audience. And then they start to realize, my goodness, this guy is not joking. He tries to add humor, but actually it's a very serious thing. That when people don't have toilet, they actually go out and open defecate in the fields, in the bush, and women get raped
Yes.
because they are naked while they are vulnerable. And at least a lot of them lose their privacy through peeping toms, and some get killed because the rapists don't want them to recognize their face. So just going to the toilet gives so much problem, right? And girls drop out from schools when there's no toilet to change their menstrual pad. They can't do it in front of the boys, so they skip school and they eventually drop out because they can't follow whatever is taught in the school anymore. So without education, girls become in poverty. So it's a lot of serious problem, including pollution of the river.
That's remarkable. In just a short span, you've taken the problem from just open defecation, which most of us would recognize as okay, that's bad, but it's actually much more than that. As you said, you have girls who are vulnerable. They're attacked. They're raped. Children have to drop out of school. Children are far more likely to become ill or even die. So
Yeah,
it just goes on and on. It spreads to so many other factors. So the problem is actually really huge.
huge. The number of people dying of diarrhea every year is 2 million people, even now, and a large part of them, majority, is children. And people doesn't want to talk about it. If we talk about COVID, when there's 30,000 people die, the whole world shut down.
Yes.
But that is because COVID affected middle class and rich people. But diarrhea only affect poor people who die of diarrhea. If you are rich, you don't die of diarrhea.
Yes.
But if you are poor, you do. And so poor people problems are not important to middle class people, so that they don't even get aware of it. So for me, I have to speak out. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Um, okay, I know you don't. I know you don't have a giant factory in Singapore where you're manufacturing toilets day and night and shipping out all over the world. That's not how your program works. Can you talk a little about the process of how you actually affect the change?
So basically, we make it uh, we drive demand for the public by talking about it. So if we are talking here and your um, audience, I don't know, probably 100,000 people or something like that, listen to this podcast, and they start to realize, my goodness, I never even thought of that. I always have a toilet. I assume every human being, the day they are born with a toilet, right? You don't have to even build them, it's just there. It's not true. And then they start to realize that, my goodness, there's so much problems to be solved. Do you know the environmental degradation when the river is full of shit?
Yes.
It's actually pristine drinking water becomes poison. And so these are very serious problems that create the loss of livelihood. And so when I speak about it, the people start to demand from their politicians, and they say, we would like to have toilet. And politicians, they just basically looking for the agenda that can make them popular. So if people want toilet and I can get elected, I will promise you toilet, and then let's get this thing going, and I win power. So in many countries like India, sanitation became an election agenda, and politicians compete with one another, promising more and more toilets until Prime Minister Modi built 110 million toilets for all of Indian people. That's the biggest toilet construction project in the history of mankind. And along the way, our founding date, 19th of November, also became adopted by the United Nations General Assembly as the official UN World Toilet Day. So that's adopted and signed by 193 countries, including American government. So I think that that is an achievement to legitimize this otherwise embarrassing and disgusting and rude subject is no more. Now people are taking it seriously.
We at my company Cascade, um, we do a lot on social media. We try to acknowledge events and things like that are going on in other places, and we promote World Toilet Day. It's November 19th. Is that right?
Yes, thank you very
Oh
much.
no,
Yes.
you're very welcome. It's definitely an important event. How difficult was that to make happen? What was the UN initially accepting of the idea, or not so much?
So the UN generally do not want another day. There's so many days. And first of all, to get that resolution approved, you need to have your country government or any country government who is, of course, a member of the United Nations to table a UN resolution. Then you have to have at least half of the people voted yes. So we got unanimous vote. And this was also the first time Singapore, as a country, my country, a very small island with only 5.5 million people, we table a UN resolution ourselves. This is historic. It's the first time we table a UN resolution ourselves without a coalition of countries. And I think it's very good that humanity now has a World Toilet Day. It took us 10 months to negotiate with every big countries, group of countries like EU or Forum of Small States or the Africans. So we try to negotiate with the big one by one, and the small ones we negotiate as a group.
Uh, Amazing. Well, congratulations on that. I know that's a remarkable achievement. Would you mind talking a little bit about what was your initial motivation? Why there are so many problems in the world that need to be solved? Is there something about your background or where you grew up that made this especially poignant for you?
I grew up in Singapore in 1957. Our independence was 1965 from the British. So when our country was independent, it was still a very, very poor country. We have the GDP the same as Kenya or Jamaica or Ghana, 500 US dollar uh, per capita a year income. And I saw my country turn from third world to first world in 25 years. And today we are the second highest income per capita at 83,000 US dollars, just below Qatar. And they have oil and we have nothing. We have no oil, no water, no land, no food, no energy, right? But we use our human ingenuity to create a high income. Our income is even higher than America or Switzerland or Germany.
Mm.
So along the way, I saw that it is actually possible that everybody become prosperous, provided you have good governance, right? You don't need you won't need poor people in your country, or homeless, or drug addict, or criminal. Here in Singapore, there's virtually no crime, no drugs, no corruption, and everyone have toilets, and the streets are clean. So how do you do that? So I think if we can do it here, we can do it for everybody. But at 40 years old, I have already 16 companies, small, medium enterprises, and I made some money. So I thought, okay, I should retire to do social work because there's enough money to sustain the family, send the children to university. And I don't want to earn more money because what's the point of leaving behind a lot of money? It's better to leave behind a lot of legacy, a lot of good things happen. And I also know that at 40 is half time because people die around 80. So I start a countdown clock on my phone, and I have 14,600 days before I expire. And today I have kind of like 5,030 days left before my 80th birthday. So every day is very urgent. So when it's urgent, what do? You must choose the agenda that nobody wants to fund, nobody wants to speak about it, nobody wants to help, and that is neglected but important. So I went to do that. So in the last 26 years, I have been working for free because nobody will donate a single cent to us. So it's possible to make a big revolution by just volunteering. So we got a lot of volunteers. And if your viewers want to volunteer, just join my LinkedIn or Facebook, and you can start volunteering.
Your your model, your organizational model, is a little different than some other organizations. You're not a charity organization, in other
We
words.
are a charity.
Well, you're a charity organization,
We,
but you very much embrace the free market. You're not just giving things to people for free.
No.
It's utilizing
You
the market to help people
The
achieve.
easiest thing to do is to raise some money and give it for free. But how many can you change? We are talking about billions. And over the last 23 years, we have got 2.5 billion people out of open defecation. That means people have sanitation. 2.5 billion people just by talking about it. So we got biggest country like Nigeria, Brazil, China, India, ASEAN, all coming into action, and they are all the political leaders doing that. So I think that these are the very, very important issue is that if we want to do something because of our short lifespan, we have to do it urgently and in very large scale. And the only way you can do large scale is to mobilize the whole world to do it. And so we are a movement and not like an implementation NGO. So if somebody want to donate money, donate to us as a movement to create the impact through other people and not like go build 10 toilets here and 5 toilets there. That will never,
Hmm.
move the needle. Yeah.
Right. Um, do does the UN or UNICEF or are there other organizations that have tracked where you've where these projects have been implemented over time and look at the changes they've made in children's health or education or things like that?
Yeah, there's a lot of improvement, including China turning into a rich country today. China has got 800 million people out of poverty in the last 30 years. So, as you can see, it's no more people without toilets. And we went to help them since 2004. First of all, to clean up all the tourism toilet. Their original culture for toilet was very, very poor, very dirty. But nowadays, it's like Japanese toilet is so clean. I myself am very, very impressed the way their quality of life have improved over the last 30 years. It's just shocking. Every year you go, it's better and better and better. So I think that with countries such as India, China, Brazil, Nigeria, and the ASEAN countries, we covered a lot of grounds.
Hmm.
And it's about changing behavior, driving demand, making people feel that this is actually quality life. It's not just, we must demand for good toilet. Yeah.
I Probably 5 or 6 years ago, but I had the opportunity to go to Bangladesh with a group, and we were studying water poverty and looking at some of the drinking water development projects they have been doing there in some of the communities, and being able to provide clean water for residents. It's of course that's remarkable, but usually they would also be doing toilet projects in the same communities at the same time. And really, I
Mm.
think those were even more impressive. It was so obvious to see the change that was making. Like you were saying earlier, girls now having a private space to go to the bathroom. That's pretty revolutionary.
Yes, I think that if you are in America, you don't get much to read about what's happening in the world. Very often, you read about your own city and your own state, and then even what's going on in federal, you don't know very much,
That's right.
except that don't know there's a war in Ukraine or something like that, right? But if you start to understand and travel, you will see that the world, even in Africa, is progressing very fast. And then if I go to New York subway and I look at, my goodness, nothing has changed in the last 100 years. It's still broken. And I think that America needs a lot of improvement too, because when I go to Los Angeles, just near Hollywood, there's actually an entire street where homeless people don't have toilets and they're like really living very badly. So I think that if you start to think about America, there's a lot of catch up to do as well.
Definitely. I agree with you. And I don't think most people in America, except for the homeless, I don't think most of us think very much about having a toilet in our home. That's just how we live, and that's just how it is. Um, I like to do a lot of backpacking and climbing mountains and things like that. And when you're in the really high elevations of the mountains, you have to take your poop out with you. You can't leave it behind because there's no soil, there's no microorganisms to break it down and so forth. So occasionally, if I'm out doing that, I might go for 2 or 3 days, and I'm carrying all my poop with me in my backpack, and it gets pretty stinky. And and then I think about, oh well, toilets really are a remarkable invention, but
Yeah.
otherwise we don't think about it too much.
Yes, but I think when you reach some trees, you can fertilize
When
it.
you get
If
down lower in the lower elevations, there's usually
yeah,
a good forest dander, some good soil there. I think that's okay, but just up in the
yeah,
in the really high alpine, you're
yeah.
supposed
If
to
you
pack it out. That kind of makes me think of something, though. You use a lot of humor in your work to get your point across, and I think that's really smart. As you were saying at the very beginning, people don't want to talk about this subject. It's off-putting and kind of icky, but I like the fact that you take the subject matter head on very directly, but you often do it in a very funny way, and that probably disarms people.
yes, I think it's the only way because uh, people will say like, we're having dinner. Can we don't talk about this? But after we cross the threshold, they themselves start talking nonstop, and they will suddenly come up with all their travel stories, like yours about mountain climbing, or some about going to some place with very beautiful toilet and very horrible ones, and they will talk all night. They will be even talking about potty training for their children. And then you start to realize, for example, in America, there are a few problems in toilets. Number one, it's very hard to find a public toilets. You probably have to pay to 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 go to a pub or go to McDonald's to use it. The other one is that the ratio between ladies and gents
Yes,
in America is still following the old cowboy days when um, women don't go to work. So the woman toilet doesn't get liberated. Although the woman is liberated now, they go to
yes,
work and they end up queuing up because there's not enough cubicles. And so we've changed the law in Singapore and in China since 2005 that ladies' toilet has to be much bigger so that you can compensate for every urinal, one cubicle inside the ladies, and
okay,
that occupies more space than a urinal.
yes,
So so I hope if there's one thing to change is to bring potty parity to America and rewrite the building codes, which we have done around here, and get the ladies to stop queuing up, because when going to the toilet is very urgent
yes,
and you don't have like 10 minutes to
right.
wait or sometime longer. It's very, very uncomfortable. So I think that that's one. The other one is that there's no privacy in the American toilet cubicle. There's some gaps on the side where you
Hmm.
actually can look in and see somebody sitting on the pot.
Hmm.
And also the space from the ground is very, very high. It's kind of like 18 inches high, and you can see everybody's underwear and their legs and their shoes, everything there. This is not good. Why don't you just build it so that it covers all the privacy? Yeah.
Good questions. And I love the term putty parity too. That's a wonderful campaign slogan there. That passing that law must have made you popular with the ladies in Singapore.
Yes, I think that they don't realize it. They just like when they announced the law, it was one day, and after that, a year later, all the new buildings are completed, and then they just realize that they don't queue up for new buildings, but they still queue up at old buildings
Mm.
because they can't change that. So I think that we need to change this law in every country. But America building codes are not controlled centrally. So you have to go state by state,
Yeah,
city by city. Uh, it's a lot of work. So we need local people to drive it. Yeah,
right.
I can advise them. I can help them.
Okay. What are some things, or are there things that have surprised you over the years as you've worked on your program?
I realized that the world is actually very small and it's very easy to influence the whole world if you have something important to say that is useful for them. And so I'm very glad that the last 20 over years, I have been able to make a change uh, in society that leaves behind a legacy because I know 5,000 over days later, I will be dead, right? We all die. We all die. Our ancestors are all gone. So while we are here, we want to do something and not waste time on who is richer than us or showing off or even worse involving in war
Mm.
like who don't agree with who why want to have such a problem because life is so short. It's better to do good things that leave behind a better world than before you come.
And you're certainly doing that. Uh, what are you working on? Excuse me. What are you working on right now? Do you have any new initiatives that you'd like to see in the next few years?
Yeah, just next week starting consultancy for the Asian Development Bank. They want to lend money to countries to prioritize sanitation, especially wastewater treatment. And very few countries are borrowing money for wastewater treatment. They are borrowing money for energy uh, plants and roads, infrastructure, railway. They're borrowing money for a lot of other things except water and sanitation. So Asian Development Bank has asked me to be their consultant to create an app where we can collect all the data and price the negative externality of not having proper sanitation. How much does it cost in healthcare,
Mm.
in tourism income loss, in livelihood, in uh, human suffering, morbidity, and mortality? So I think that if we can price all this, it becomes very obvious for politicians to say, wow, I'm actually paying more money when I didn't invest in sanitation. And
Yes.
so if they want to invest, we arrange a loan from the ADB. First 5 years, you don't pay anything. And after 5 years, you just pay 2 or 3% interest over 30 years. So it's a very, very soft loan. And I think the World Bank has the similar loan. So we are trying to create this app to allow financing to happen.
That sounds amazing, and you should easily be able to show the benefits of investing in sanitation rather than just putting it off forever.
Yes, I'm also. Last year we have World Toilet Summit in Nigeria, and all 36 state governor participated. And now I have been invited in one of the state called Bayelsa, and they want me to go not just to help on sanitation, but to help them learn how Singapore turned from third world to first world and to clean up not just the toilet, but the street, their rivers, and their corruption. Because a clean mindset goes all the way. You have to clean up the mafia. You have to clean up the government. You have to clean up the toilets, clean up the street, clean up the river. And most integral to all this is to clean up the minds of people. And once people start to demand clean government, you will see progress very fast. In Singapore, we were very corrupt before. When the British was here, the police was also very corrupt. And now we have no corruption. And it becomes a culture. So cleanliness is quite broad, but we start from the toilet.
It works as a wonderful metaphor for so many other aspects of society. That's great.
Mm. You never thought of it that way, but
No.
actually it is true.
Um, just to close up, what advice would you give to young people who are thinking about their lives and their careers and what they would like to do?
For young people, basically, you first have to get your bread and butter settled, right? Have some income and feed the family, and everything is fine. But if you are not ostentatious, that problem gets solved very quickly. You will save money. In Singapore, we save about 40% of our income by law. By law, we have to save about 40% of our income. We save 17%, and the employee give us another employer give us another saving of 20. So we have 37% of our income saved by law, and then we save about half of our take-home pay again. So we save a lot of money. So we buy our property, we don't rent, and the whole country owns their own apartment. And so I think that young people try to stay frugal, do not spend, right? And then save for your assets and your livelihood. And then once you are stable, try also parallelly to volunteer and to serve society, because there are always unfair uh, treatment to society. There will always be some people who are less advantaged, less privileged, and you can try to help them. Because just wasting time buying money, showing off your car, and going to parties and all that, you're not spending money. You're spending your lifetime, and the real currency of life is days, hours, minutes, and seconds. And once you finish spending this currency called time, you are a dead person. Finish. The game is over. So that is the most precious thing in your life is time, not money. So try to spend your time in a way that on your last day, you can say to yourself, I think I have done a good job. And on your last day, you don't want to check your bank balance, I can assure you.
I I hope I'm not misquoting this. I think I remember though that a man named Sarge Schreiber, whom President Kennedy picked to uh, lead the Peace Corps when the Peace Corps was initially developed. He was the first director of it, and I believe he's famous for saying, "Serve, serve, serve." For in the end, it is the servants who will save us all, or something to that effect.
No, service is actually the highest return on investment, because you feel good, when you love other people, when you give love, you feel good. When you think about yourself, you feel miserable because you're always comparing. And that's very, very sad life. And then even worse, if you start to have prejudice against other people, if you start to judge and discriminate, then that's even more miserable. So it's better not to. We don't need reward. We just need to serve. And the moment we do something we feel good, that's the reward itself. You already gave yourself the reward. You don't need somebody else to come and pat you on the shoulder.
Well, just one more time, Dr. Sim, if people want to learn more about the World Toilet Organization, where should they go?
Our website is worldtoilet.org. And my Facebook, you just go, I don't know what's the number, but you just check Jack Sim and you will find me.
Good.
And then LinkedIn, you can go on LinkedIn, which is the best one because LinkedIn's are professionals, and immediately I start to know who you are because I go to your profile. You start to read all the posting I have. So go to the LinkedIn. I don't tweet because tweet is like a lot of time consumption.
Definitely. Well, Dr. Sim, thank you for being with us today. This was a really fascinating talk. I had a wonderful time. I know you're very busy, and I appreciate your time and your expertise. And congratulations on the remarkable work that you're doing. Thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you, and send me the link so I can go on the social media and share it with others. Thanks, audience, for listening. I hope you have taken away something useful, and talk about toilet. Don't feel shy about it.
And thank you all for being with me today. I hope you enjoyed this broadcast. If you did, please like and subscribe and follow us on the socials. You can also find helpful information about Cascade's water conservation programs at cascadewater.org. Have a great day, and remember, we need water.